Okay, the final subject that I want to talk about in terms of employee rights um, centers on privacy and social media and culture. So let's just repeat that the concept behind all of these discussions is for the manager to create an environment that nurtures and develops each individual employee so that as a part of the team that is making the department work, they are as most effective as they can be. And that anything that isolates an employee and prejudices an employee is going to be understood as something that is negative. Again, just by way of repetition, um, a classic example of this is the story about the miracle on ice. It was in the 1980 Olympics, I believe, that the American Olympic team went up against the Russian Olympic team. Now, back in the 1980s, the difference between the Russians and the Americans were that the American Olympic players in the hockey team were all amateurs. They were basically students going to colleges or universities in the States, and they did not make a salary or play in a professional way at all. We had none of the NHL players on the American Olympic team or the Canadian Olympic team. Conversely, the Russian Olympic players were all professional players. That's all they did, although there was a bit of a smokescreen that was put in front of their affiliation with various schools. But they didn't go to those schools, and they got paid to play. So you had a far higher caliber of player on the Russian team. 1980, the Americans go to, I can't remember where it was, where the games were, I apologize, but wherever they were in Europe. And the Americans play their first game, I think it was against Norway, and they lose like, 12 to nothing. It was a horrible, horrible loss. I think like in 2021, the loss of the American basketball team on the first game in Tokyo against France, who is not a basketball powerhouse. So the team lost. The coach, after the game was over, kept the team in the dressing room and brought them back out onto the ice and asked them to skate around the rink to practice as basically was a punishment for losing the game. So they're skating for 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 minutes, an hour. It's getting a little hard. One of the players says, "Coach, can we come in yet?" Coach asks them one question: "What's your name, and what team do you play for?" All right. So one guy says, "My name is Smith, University of Florida." The guy says, "My name is Smith, or Charters, and I play for the University of Southern California." Third guy, La Framboise, and I play for the University of Louisiana. That's it. Okay, keep skating. Skate for another hour and a half. The lights in the rink get turned off by the custodian. They're still skating. The player asks again. Coach asks the same question. "What's your name? What team do you play for?" Again, we get Charles for the University of Florida, Smith for University of Southern California, La Framboise for University of Louisiana. Keep skating. It's about 3 hours into the skate, and you hear these plunking sounds, like some of the guys are just falling down. Well, yet again, the coach is asked if they can come in. He says, "What's your name and what team do you play for?" So now they've heard this question twice, so they understand something else is going on. So the first guy says, "Okay, my name is Smith, and I play for the United States of America." Okay. Next guy says, "My name is, I don't know, Charles. I play for the United States of America." Third guy says, "My name is Laframboise, and I play for the United States of America." Coach says, "Fine, come into the dressing room." They straggle into the dressing room, exhausted, sweating, tired beyond tired. Because don't forget, they played a hockey game 3 periods before this little exercise in the rink. He turns to his players and he says, "This team will never be successful when each one of you cares more about the name on the back of the jersey than the name on the front of the jersey." Now, if you know anything about hockey, you know that the name on the front of the jersey is the team. The name on the back of the jersey is your name. If it's all about you, this team will never be a team and it will never succeed. And that's the idea about creating a corporate culture. That's the idea about business ethics, valuing the partners and having a bigger view of what's going on. The manager's job, like the coach's job, is to get everybody that's an individual and on the team to feel that they are a part of something great and something bigger. And when they internalize that, then the performance will be outstanding. And just like the American Olympic team, a bunch of literal amateurs defeated the professional Russian hockey team in the 1980 Olympic gold medal. So when you hear people say, "Oh, if only I had better people on my team, then I'd be far more successful as a manager," you realize that that person is probably not a great manager. So when we are talking here about the privacy and the invasion emotionally of people, you realize it's a very important part of the culture that we're trying to create in an organization. Privacy allows each person to have a zone that belongs to them. We have to safeguard that for them. So anybody who brings gossip about people into the corporate environment, that has to be discouraged, because somebody is at the butt of those jokes, and at the butt of those jokes is easily a revelation of something that should have been private for that person. And we have to understand that as a company, we're going to discuss what we're going to allow as conversation, and those are going to be our boundaries. If there was any area of corporate culture that was important to be transparent, this is definitely the place. Now, on that same note, in the company itself, we have to be able to say, you know what, all of your emails are being monitored. There are security cameras here, and this is where they're located, and they're filming 24/7. And the employees need to know that all these things are being done. Because if there is going to be behavior that they might have thought twice about, had they known they were being filmed, then they have to be aware of that. You have to disclose that information to them. it's respectful of them. Because ultimately your goal is not to catch them. Your goal is to stop them from doing whatever it was to begin with. I used to buy from a company called Newell Hardware. They had a plant in Prescott, Ontario. And one of the big problems they had in the plant was that they were having merchandise stolen to the tune of approximately $100,000 a year. And that was a lot of money back then. So they were trying to figure out how to overcome this problem of employees stealing stuff out of the factory. Because basically when they stole, they took a box, it had 12 little, I don't know, these little rings that you put your towels on, because they made all these kinds of bathroom accessories, soap dishes. They stole the whole box. Maybe only needed one, but they stole the box. So they realized catching the thieves was, at the end of the day, since it was such a small town, not going to be the best thing for everybody else. Because this could be your friend, this could be somebody that's just done it once, and now here what we're going to have is this whole public humiliation of the thief that got caught. So what they did is they put up a counter, and they put on it every single item they made, and they told people, whatever you want, take. No problem. You don't have to steal it anymore. You could just take it. You want to take one for your uncle, for your cousin, take whatever you want. No problemo. The $100,000 in shrinkage went down to about, what did they tell me? $10,000 or $12,000. I would say that was a pretty wise move. And that's what we're talking about here. We're not trying to catch the person with the camera. We're trying to avoid the problem to begin with. So we have to have disclosure, and it's part of the privacy relationship that we have with the employee. Now, we can definitely, as a company, demand certain behaviors in our employees. For example, my stockbroker is prohibited from dangerous activities by the bank he works for. So he can't go skydiving. That's an example. Now, if you want to be a stockbroker, you can't go skydiving. Why? Because your clients are dependent on your advice and the relationship they have with you. So we don't want to take a chance and have you not available to your clients. We're entitled to make that requirement as an employer, and you're entitled to say, no, I'm not going to do that. But again, totally transparent and totally upfront. So again, once all of these things have been thought out and discussed, so then we don't violate the privacy of people. We're not interested in exploring what they do in their off hours, and we're not interested in discussing whether they're going to that club is good, or belonging to this political party is bad, or any of the other things that they're doing within the parameters of what we've laid out as our policy. And that brings us to this concept of cancel culture, where somebody goes out in their own private time and does an inappropriate action. We have to make a decision as a company ahead of time. Is it within our realm of responsibility to punish people for those choices? So, for example, there's a political protest at Queen's Park in favor of, I don't know, some discriminatory new idea. I don't know what. Banning all people with blonde hair from ever entering Canada. And an employee from the company goes to that event because they don't want any people with blonde hair in Canada. And they're filmed and it gets on the news that night, and we know that person worked for us. And so we decide that we'll punish them because they went to this event um, and supported this ludicrous idea, um, so they lose their job. We have to make a decision as a company. What are the boundaries of those types of choices that we are prepared to get involved in? And especially in today's society with social media, that's a real issue for us to have to deal with. And so that again needs to be discussed. I think you'll see that everything that I'm telling you is not an edict from head office, but a subject that we discuss. Because if the employee knows before they go to this event um, that if it becomes public that they've been here, then that will be a problem for them, then they may not go. That will be their choice, of course, but they understand that the company requires a certain behavior from its employees, like telling my stockbroker you can't go skydiving, and that as long as you want to be a member of this company, these are the requirements that we have, and if you choose to violate them, there's no problem. But then we have the right to terminate your employment. That's called transparency, and of course it requires some thoughtful consideration. I'm not saying any of this is easy. Of course it's not. And I'm not saying I agree with it. But what I am saying is that we've got to be transparent, and we have to be able to disclose everything that fits into the category that we consider to be a violation of the privacy of people and their own time. So, I think that that is important for us, especially with cancel culture and all of these other issues. I think it's important for us to recognize that these are things that we have to consider as managers in order to create a wholesome and a nurturing and a nourishing environment for our employees.